So Phee Collier was on Stephen A. Smith's show on ESPN. And of course, they asked her about the looming WNBA lockout that everybody's talking about. And she had some interesting answers. Let's hear what she said. Call to play.
We're calling the plays, all right?
You got to listen and you got to execute.
I already feel good about me. I'm good.
Just call it.
Nafees, let me ask you this. I want to transition here. You were very vocal about a possible 2026 lockout for the WNBA players amid CBA negotiations. What's your biggest priority with those negotiations?
No one wants a lockout. But I think we have to stand firm in what we think we deserve in this new CBA. Mm-hmm. The atmosphere of women's sports is changing, and we think we need to get paid accordingly. And so we're definitely going in with that mindset where we don't want that to happen, but we are willing to do what it takes to, get what we think we deserve.
So here's the question. What do you think you deserve? Whatever the WNBA Players Associations ask for, that's the key. Like I just said, they're going to get together and there's going to be a bunch of meetings where the players and their reps have to come to an agreement on what exactly they are going to ask for, because you can't just throw everything on the table and expect to get it. That ain't gonna happen. So they have to be very strategic on what they're asking for. Definitely it's going to be higher pay, but what about pensions? What about health insurance? What about maternity and child care? These are expensive needs. I know, especially it's a different set of circumstances when you're talking about women versus the men of the NBA. They don't worry about maternity leave and child care and things of that nature, but the women do. When you got who was that, De'Arica Hamby, with the situation she had down in Las Vegas that made her want to leave, and she thought Becky Hammon wasn't treating her right when it came to her pregnancy and what she did. There's a lot that goes to that. There's going to be like a quid pro quo. You got to go back and forth. You got to give something to get something. The WNBA Players Association, that's the stuff they got to think about. You might get a lot of good stuff. What are you willing to give up to get it?
How much of a better position do you think you're in now as a collective body to receive what you want, Nafeesa, compared to what you may have been, say, a year or 2 years ago?
Before she answers, you got to look at the numbers. You got to run the numbers. So look at the viewership, let's say 4 to 5 years before, 5 years BC, 5 years before Clark, and see what it was looking like, 2020, 2019, 2020, going forward. And then you can see the shape of the viewership for each of the teams. You can tell which teams had the biggest growth. That's what you want to figure out, because everybody wants to throw the blanket statement out there like, yeah, the WNBA has been growing. Well, how much has it been growing? That's what you want to find out. And that's another one of those things they could possibly use as leverage if they can document legitimate growth before Caitlin Clark came on the scene.
I think we're in a great position. I mean, as you guys have seen, the sport is just exploding. I mean, you saw it with the viewership in the WNBA last year, with Unrivaled this year. Like, people are tuning in. And so I think we're in a really great position where we have all the leverage as players right now.
The WNBA players have more leverage than probably at any time in its existence. But you absolutely do not have all the leverage. So stop saying that. You do not have all the leverage. That is and has always been in the laps of the owners. And seeing as though the NBA owns the majority of your league, you fight in the NBA. So technically, they have all the leverage. Because if you had all the leverage, you'd have been getting a lot more than $2.2 billion in the new media rights deal. There's a lot more money left on the table that the WNBA didn't get. So no, you do not have all the leverage. Far from it.
We have the most leverage we've ever had as WNBA players, and we have to use it to our advantage. Like, the time for change is right now, and so we have to take advantage of it.
You guys signed a one-year deal, knowing that the CBA was going to be up, and now you were co-founder of Unrivaled. How much do you think having Unrivaled, giving them someplace else to go, also helps you in these negotiations?
I think a lot. Having options is never a bad thing, right? And then also
Right.
it's going to be really crazy at Unrivaled next year with, I mean, I think it's like 80% of the league is off their contracts. Everyone but rookies are off their contracts. Plus we have 2 new teams, so 2 expansion drafts as well. It's going to be like the Wild West out here. It's going to be crazy.
Now that's a pretty nice plug for Unrivaled, but you didn't really answer the question. Unrivaled as a league can't hold all of the extra weight if there's a lockout. Who's holding down all them rookies that you were talking about? Who's holding down all of those players that don't have lucrative deals overseas, or the rookies that aren't making much money, and maybe rookies that didn't get a lot of NIL money and don't have endorsement deals? I've said this before. Everybody ain't going to be an Angel Reese and a Caitlin Clark. Everybody don't get, millions of dollars in NIL, or, they don't get paid a whole bunch of money for wearing a dress to the Met Gala. Everybody ain't got it like that. Everybody ain't got State Farm commercials. So there's going to be a lot of people in the league that if you have a lockout, you got to take care of. Are you going to pool money together for those players in the league that aren't doing so well? Because there's going to be a lot of them. So there's some other things that you got to think about other than, well, we're not getting what we want and we just going to shut it down. It's a little bit more complicated than that, and there's a lot of levels to it. So not that simple.
And so the fact that, we are going through these negotiations with really like extreme things that, a lot different than the CBA that we had before. We're asking for a lot more. The fact that we have other options, I think is a great thing.
Caitlin Clark obviously has been a hot button topic on the show and took the WNBA by storm last year. Now her team is going to have 41 of their 44 games nationally televised, while the reigning champs, the Liberty, only have 32. Was this a fair move by the W?
I think it's 2 things. I mean, obviously people want to watch Caitlin play, and so you have to put the people on TV that people want to see. But at the same time, like there's stars all over the league, and you want good basketball as well. Obviously Indiana, especially like with their free agents, they're going to be a great team. But to not have the defending champs on TV more, I think it's kind of crazy. I mean, it doesn't have to be where you're taking games away from Indiana, but I think you can raise the level of TV games for the other teams as well.
The audience is going to dictate what the audience wants to see. And here's the equation, right? The audience dictates what they want to see. The networks listen to the audience so they can get their views, maximize viewership. That viewership is going to dictate how much money advertisers are willing to pay during those games. The ads, the ad revenue, the money the networks makes from those ads is going to go right back. And that is the media rights deals that you just see for the $2.2 billion and all this money that the NBA and the NFL and now the WNBA is going to make. The media rights deals is going to go right back into your pockets for the higher salaries and all the stuff that y'all want that costs a whole lot of money. You got to be careful because the audience is going to dictate, and this whole process starts with your viewership, not necessarily how many people are showing up to the arenas. Are you getting 1 million viewers? Are you getting 1.5 million, 2 million viewers? Go back and run the numbers and see what your viewership is like. That's what's going to drive the ad revenue when you're on TV.
Why is that an issue? I asked this question respectfully, Nafisa, because I remember in the 80s, for example, when Magic Johnson and Larry Bird took the NBA by storm and they were winning championships, competing for championships. But then this dude named Michael Jordan came along. And Michael Jordan came along and he wasn't yet winning championships, but his popularity was so astronomical that the NBA practically marketed everything they could around this guy. So to know that there's an example like that as a shining example to be followed that could benefit the league, particularly down the road, why is that an issue when we've seen that such a marketing plan has worked in the past?
I don't think it's an issue. I do think Caitlin's a star. And like I said, people want to see her, and we are trying to grow the league. Like, you need to put on TV the players that people want to see.
Stop right there. That's the point. Period. Point, period, in the paragraph. But I feel there's a but coming.
But kind of what I said before, I don't think raising the level of the other teams has to mean bringing down Caitlin or the Indiana Fever. They should have those amount of games on TV on primetime. But I think other teams should also have more than what they have.
the stars in the league are not drawing the interest that you think, period. You and Asia Wilson are the two best players in the league right now, bar none. But every time Asia Wilson plays away, do you have to get a bigger venue? No. When you, Phee Collier, play away, when Minnesota plays away, does the home team have to get a bigger venue? No. This has nothing to do with how good of a player you are. Has nothing to do with that. This has everything to do with how popular you are as a player. Now, I do agree, Indiana Fever playing on prime time, that's money, because that's when you're going to be able to maximize your viewership on prime time. I think the opportunity may have been missed by the W. Well, it's not the W. It's the people, it's the networks that choose what they want to put on. The networks can make a change and say, we want Chicago instead of Indiana. We want Phee Collier in Minnesota instead of Indiana. The networks can ask for what they want because they're fitting the bill. And that's what it essentially comes down to. The networks are going to listen to what the audience says, and the majority of the audience right now is looking for Caitlin Clark. So what they're trying to do, in my opinion, is they're trying to put the best foot forward when they're about to go into this new CBA. This is going to be able to give you the stats to say, hey, look at what our viewership is. Look at what we've been able to do for the last 5, 6, 7 years. Once again, this is a negotiation. This is not a list of demands specifically for the WNBA players. Well, what are the owners going to get out of this? Yes, you are in a better situation, but the owners and the NBA really control all the money. So really who you going up against is the NBA, because the NBA is going to get their money. What are you going to convince the NBA to come up off of when they're the owners of the league? That's the question. So it sounds good. We're going to get what we want. We're going to get what we deserve. Everything's been growing. But don't be surprised if the NBA owners or whoever you're negotiating with brings up past numbers and say, hey, this is what it looked like. So what are you going to do about that? They're going to ask some uncomfortable questions, and you guys as the player reps better be prepared to answer. And you can't get into your feelings on this one. It's facts over feelings. And when it comes to the money that y'all are asking and we playing around with, because now you have the mainstream audience, it can get real cutthroat. And I keep saying this all the time. Y'all got to learn how to play the game. And the game ain't fair.